Good afternoon, everybody. Please be seated. Right, can I remind members, please, to switch off their mobile phones, just in case anything goes off. Right, I welcome people who have attended our meeting and are present in the public gallery today. Obviously, there's a great interest in hearing from the West Yorkshire Mayor and in hearing our answers to your questions. The public are very welcome to listen to proceedings today, but a reminder this is not a meeting in which the public participate and ask questions. Please be respectful to the proceedings and do not disrupt our meeting, please. If there is a disruption from the public gallery, we might need to adjourn the meeting, which would be a great shame when there's so much interest in items being discussed. Before we continue, I understand Councillor Jeffrey would like to move a motion without notice. Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move a change in order of business, Council Procedure Rule 2.3, so that we can take agenda item 10, the West Yorkshire Mayor, before items 4 to 9, to give us the maximum time to hear from and ask questions of the West Yorkshire Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Homewood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support the motion for the reasons given by Councillor Jeffrey.
Right, all in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? No, that's carried. Right, the next item on the agenda is to receive apologies for absence. In advance of the meeting, apologies have been received from councillors Pat Garbutt, Masterman, Mitchell, Pritchard, Tennant and Tennant King, Councillor Bates, and I believe Councillor Alan Garbutt and Councillor Kitchen together. They will need to leave before the meeting ends. Are there any further apologies? Councillor Hunt. Councillor Hunt. Any more?
Councillor Gert.
Councillor Gert. We've got a lot, right?
Mr. Mayor, I need to leave at half past 4.
Sorry?
I need to leave at half past 4.
Okay, fine. Right, so we've got all the apologies.
Oh, I need to leave at half past 3 as well as okay.
Okay, right, we've got all of this. Right, thank you.
Sorry, trying to give it 5.
Okay, thank you. Right, the next agenda item on the council summons is to receive disclosures by members of interest in matters under consideration. Will members declaring any interest please identify themselves and their particular interest? Yes?
I'd like to declare interest in item number 9. I'm the chairman and I'll call on the vice chancellor.
Thank you. Any others? Right, obviously you would need to complete the appropriate yellow form before the end of the meeting. Are there any disclosable pecuniary interests to be declared? Councillor Jones?
Going to the chair and go for it.
Thank you. Are there any other significant other interests to be declared? Are there any other interests to be declared? Right, thank you. Right, agenda item 2 is to receive and confirm the minutes of the council meeting held on the 28th of September 2022. Are these minutes moved?
Move the minutes, Mr. Mayor.
Are the minutes seconded?
Second the minutes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favour? Thank you. Right, that is carried. Right, before we proceed to the agenda, I will say now that at the end of this particular agenda item, there will be a 10-minute break. Okay? Right, so following the motion without notice, we will now take agenda item 10, which is the West Yorkshire Mayor. Mayor Braden would like to address the council before I open the meeting to questions. Once Mayor Braden has addressed the council as she sees fit, ask if any of you are to ask any questions of the Mayor. Okay, Mayor Braden is in attendance until 3:30, unless there are any further questions to her. Right, so, Councillor Mayor Braden, sorry.
Thank you, and what a privilege it is to be here in this fantastic building, this amazing room. And can I say it's also very pleasing to see young interns from the LGA sitting in on the political shenanigans of local government and devolution and Metro Mayors. So really a privilege to be here. Thanks ever so much. Obviously I'm going to be taking questions later, so please do make a note of the questions you'd like to ask me. Firstly, can I thank you all for all that you do, because I know how hard you work for the people of our region. And also, can I pay a particular tribute to Councillor Jeffrey for your leadership of the council through some stormy times, COVID and the cost of living crisis, and for the steps that you're taking to help the public and shield the public from the crisis this winter. And whether that's supermarket vouchers for the most vulnerable or the winter wellness campaign for absolutely everybody, the people of Wakefield know that you are on their side, and it's great to see. And that's precisely why my multi-million-pound fund was set up. We just passed that through the combined authority to support charities and households and businesses this winter, because that will be coming directly to you as a council. Because unlike strangers in Whitehall and Westminster, we know the dither and delay that we've seen, the churn of ministers, the chaos, the economic chaos, threatening more budget cuts ahead of the Chancellor's statement tomorrow. Wakefield builds while Westminster is in crisis. You just get on with it. It's a very Yorkshire way, isn't it? You just roll up your sleeves and get on with it. And that's what I'm here to do here. To add value to the work that you are already doing on the ground, because you know your community. Securing more money for our local transport and for the police, putting action on climate and equality, diversity and inclusivity at the heart of everything that I do, and I know it's values that you share here in Wakefield. Delivering on our shared ambitions for the people of Wakefield and of course the people of West Yorkshire. So it's a pleasure, a real pleasure, to be able to update you today about the progress we've been making over the last 18 months. I'm halfway through my term of office, and I'm pleased to say there are some things we've done, some things we have still yet to do, but I know that you share my ambition and impatience to deliver for the people of West Yorkshire. So I wish I could have been here back in January, but I think your meeting was cancelled. The Q&A session was cancelled due to COVID. And I know we've tried several times to make this work, so I'm really pleased that alongside other commitments we've finally got this over the line. And I know that, let's be frank, some councillors here have been quite cross that I haven't been to Wakefield and to the council. And I think somebody said I was hobnobbing with other mayors in New York. But if I could just put the record straight, that this was not at taxpayers' expense. This was paid for 100% by Bloomberg Philanthropies, and as a direct result of my involvement with a mayoral programme with mayors from all over the world, we've been able to secure support for a data track programme that's going to work with colleagues in the combined authority. In fact, I've done 2 evening sessions with colleagues to support our thinking and how we make work mass transit and our new transformational transport network. So I hope you'll agree with me that something good has come out of that. And of course, being on the world stage with other mayors talking about West Yorkshire and putting us very firmly on the map. So the benefits is great of those sorts of opportunities, but you know I don't leave the country or West Yorkshire for very often, but when I do, I want to make sure that I come back with results. And I hope that you'll agree with me that the trade mission to India, that was about a month ago now, it was a small group that went out to Mumbai and to Bangalore, and we came back with 1,000 jobs from a company called Emphasis, and tens of millions of pounds worth of investment in their expansion in Leeds. So I hope that you will see that it was definitely worth doing, and it's definitely part of my role to be the ambassador for our region, to bring investment and opportunity to our region. But the part I really like most is moving around the region into Halifax and Bradford, and obviously being here in Wakefield today, speaking to local councillors and hearing from you your concerns, because this helps my leadership no end knowing exactly what's on your mind and what the public are saying to you. And it helps me make that difference to people's lives through the combined authority. And that's why I'm really proud that our consultation on the police and crime plan, which some of you will have taken part in, was the biggest ever held in West Yorkshire. And it's why I'm proud that my mayor's Big Bus Chat engaged community groups in Wakefield and beyond about how they want us to spend our bus service improvement plan money. Now, I'm sure you have all, as I have done, received casework about the bus network and about Arriva and the changes that they've made to the bus service in our region. And I'm going to say it's shocking what they've done, and I've done everything I can in my power to prevent these cuts to the service. I brought all the Northern mayors together to lobby government to extend the bus recovery grant, which government agreed. Unfortunately, it's only till March next year, so we will again reach a cliff edge. The bus companies told me that they were having difficulty recruiting drivers. So unusually, it's not been done before, I and all the bus companies launched a campaign to recruit more drivers, and we pledged 1,000 more drivers. 550 have been recruited, and I've said you'll only get women drivers if also you change your schedule, your shift patterns, something that they've done. They're recruiting part-time drivers, which hopefully will help those with caring responsibilities. They also said because of COVID we couldn't get the training through fast enough. So using my skills budget, we have funded training so that they can get their drivers trained and on the road and behind a wheel. However, even given all of that, we have seen these bus service cuts, and I have said to Arriva, hauling Arriva and other bus companies into my office, this is utterly unacceptable. People should not be forced to get into either their car or get taxis or have to walk to work or miss opportunities because there is no bus network. It is really important. We are losing growth because of these service cuts. This is a time we should be growing the network, not reducing it. And I say to all the bus companies, what is your plan for growth? Because at the moment, you're just managing decline. So we are on a mission to press these bus companies to do better. Because we have a really ambitious transport plan here in West Yorkshire. And finally, we've got the money to deliver it as well. And with devolution and being your mayor, we've been able to bid for and secure £70 million worth of funding for buses. But don't forget that this was not a given. And in South Yorkshire, they bid, but they didn't get a penny. And this beauty contest approach is utterly unacceptable, and I've made my views very clear to government that what we want is a direct line to Treasury. We need to be funded properly. When 6 pence in every pound of our tax that we pay comes back to our region, we want not to have to do these time-consuming beauty contests. That 70 million is on top of 830 million pounds for transport infrastructure, including, of course, mass transit, funding for road maintenance and renewal, bus prioritisation on roads. We know we won't get a reliable network unless we have more bus lanes, active travel schemes, and funding for 111 new zero-emission buses. This is a really exciting opportunity for our region. Devolution has brought us enormous leverage and funding, but we have to ensure that we squeeze every penny out of government to help us with our vision. To transform the way we do transport in the north, to make sure that we are on a par with London and the South East, and you all know that London and the South East receives 3 times as much per head in investment in transport than we do, after decades of underfunding here in the north. And it is something that I continue to press government, because without those operator profits to reinvest into our bus network, this is going to be a really uphill battle. And when I entered the enhanced partnership with operators, I did so knowing we had an opportunity to make buses better now today by using money from the enhanced partnership. But also, we were in a situation where we could ride both horses. We could take money from the enhanced partnership whilst also going through the time it takes to get to the opportunity for public control and franchising. This is a government timetable that is long and quite complicated, but I didn't want to sit and see our network reduce in efficiency even further. I wanted to make the most of that enhanced partnership. And it's through that enhanced partnership, I hope you agree with me that being able to slash bus fares in a cost of living crisis to £2 and the 450 day saver, which you can use on any operator, Arriva, Transdev and First, any distance, anywhere in West Yorkshire, I hope that you agree that this is something that is going to help so many of our families in West Yorkshire. It also means we've got £30 million to invest in new routes and services, and that's where the Mayor's Big Bus Chat has really come into its own. I need to know where you need the buses to go. I need to know where the new developments are, where the new businesses are, where the colleges are, and the places where people want to get a late bus because there's a great cultural offer. So we're really consolidating all that information to get our big plan together. But we know that the cuts that we've seen are evidence of a broken system. The system is not working. Buses should be a public service. They get people to opportunity to work and to college. It doesn't work when it is for profit only. And that's why, sticking to those government timetables, we'll be in a position to put forward that comprehensive programme for bus reform in the first quarter of 2024. But till then, I'm doing everything in my power to hold operators to account, to push back against their cuts and deliver much needed investment across the 5 towns of Wakefield. So £1.5 million for active travel, £22 million through the local transport plan, £88 million through the transport fund, and when you include the Brownfield Housing Fund, the Growth Deal, the Transforming Cities Fund and others, you're looking at £172 million of committed funding to projects here in Wakefield alone. And all of this chimes with my 10 manifesto pledges. We've already created those 1,000 skilled jobs in the green sector for young people. And we're halfway through, we've got 1,000, let's not stop there. It isn't the ceiling, it's just the floor. We're going to build on that. We've assigned £40 million to our Climate and Environment Action Plan to get to net zero by 2038. And we're on track to recruit over 750 new police officers and staff by the end of my term. And I know how many complaints you get about antisocial behaviour, in particular, because I get them as well, which is why I'm pleased to say that over 3,000 fewer incidents have been recorded in Wakefield over the past year, up to August 2022. And just as importantly, the repeat rate of antisocial behaviour for communities has reduced by 41%, massively reducing the number of repeat victims. Because we know antisocial behaviour is a blight on people's lives and it really affects people's mental health. How utterly life-ruining it is to feel targeted or unsafe. And how feeling safe in your community is really as important as being safe. So while these trends are really welcome, Alison Lowe, who is my Deputy Mayor for Policing and Crime, we are not complacent. And our job is to hold the Chief Constable to account and to end the scourge of speeding and off-road bikes in our neighbourhoods, to recruit those extra officers in the face of continued underfunding from government, and to end male violence against women and girls once and for all. Because in myself and Alison, West Yorkshire for the very first time has 2 women setting the police and community safety agenda. And I put women and girls and the safety of women and girls at the heart of our police and crime plan, drawing down over £14 million from the Ministry of Justice for over 70 programmes across the region. And together with West Yorkshire Police, I'm encouraging innovation and bold and creative tactics like using public space protection orders to stop street harassment or expanding stop and search to tackle spiking. And in our Supporting the Safety of Women and Girls strategy, we're going to do so much more, and we're launching it November the 23rd, so I'm hoping you might be able to at least have a look at that strategy online if you can't join us. But for Wakefield to not only survive but thrive, we need to create the conditions for economic growth. We need to create those really good jobs where people live and empower our local businesses to do well. And that's why the Combined Authority is stepping in to support them more than ever. So since 2015, Wakefield businesses have received over £8 million of really good investment from us, which has leveraged private sector investment of £100 million. It's created 1,880 jobs in Wakefield, with a further 800 proposed. And I know that's where there's an opportunity, and that's where there's a challenge, because I know that our local businesses are really struggling with the current cost of doing business, exacerbated by those sky-high energy bills. Which is why I've asked the MCA to prioritise innovation and energy saving for businesses to bring down emissions and save business money over time. So what does that mean for Wakefield? And I don't mean to embarrass any councillors, but I'm going to name a couple of councillors if you don't mind. Companies, not councillors, because they come later. Dempsey Dyer of Pontefract, a door and window and conservatory company, receiving £24,000 to implement energy saving across the business, saving them £26,000, 81 tonnes of CO2 emissions. Alliance Transport Tech, a remanufacturer, supplier of vehicle parts, £45,000 to develop new products and cut emissions. Bordex Limited of Featherstone, a manufacturer of wooden furniture components, £37,000 to invest in new equipment to boost productivity, create jobs. Overview Studios of Castleford, a creative and digital photo agency, £25,000 to purchase new CGI equipment, enhance their offer to customers and boost growth. Some of our examples of our commitment to Wakefield's people, businesses and economy, and we're funding 3 business-facing posts in the council, working with SMEs and startups, supporting much bigger projects like Tylyard North, and hopefully bringing Rolls-Royce to Ferry Bridge, because there's nowhere better than here. And I know there are still challenges, but honestly, it's one of the best places in the country, the jewel in the crown. And I remember being on Radio 4, and the interviewer was saying, well, I was in Wakefield bus station, and people are very miserable. I was like, hang on a minute. We've got the Hepworth, we've got Production Park, we've got the Art House, we're really well connected. There is so much going on in Wakefield that we should be singing and dancing about. Kappa College, that amazing new building that we should be celebrating. And imagine, with all of that, if we had buses that turned up on time. Wouldn't that be amazing? If we had great connectivity across our region, where the streets were safe for women and girls, and women could go running on their own at night without feeling they were going to be attacked. Or the businesses that can grow and that can flourish and face the future. I think the potential for Wakefield is just absolutely limitless. And I know you share that vision with me. And to get there, we need to work together. And obviously, I need to know about your priorities, what your constituents want, and how I can help you deliver for your constituents. So I'm really looking forward to answering your questions and continuing to be your partner, walking in lockstep with you, using the resources I have through devolution to help you and your vision here in Wakefield. So thank you for inviting me to speak, and I hope you don't mind me taking so long to talk through some of the things that we're doing, because I know it's sometimes things slip under the radar and it's not always clear, the relationship between the MCA and local authorities. So thank you so much for your patience in listening, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Because that would be a mid-term report, wouldn't it? In many respects. Right. Questions from the floor, please. Councillor Byford.
raffle, I might get the first question. I want to ask a question which is really pertinent to my own ward. We've touched about public transport, that it's the backbone of the economy across much of West Yorkshire. And without easy and effective ability to move people about at a reasonable cost, the whole of the 5 districts' economies would stall, and we are stalling here due to the problems with the buses which you've alluded to. Now I, along with others on both sides of this chamber, and colleagues in the neighbouring ward of Ossett, we need a rail station. And we need it to be established quickly. I want it to give us direct access to Wakefield, Westgate, to Leeds City Station, Huddersfield, and dare I say beyond. Now personally, I'm not precious about the location of the actual station, but Horbury and Ossett have a combined population approaching over 40,000 residents. And if you add in the surrounding areas, this gives you a great opportunity to establish a new rail station for a vastly underserved area of Horbury and Ossett. Now, grandiose government schemes of HS2 and the proposed Pennines routes are potentially decades away if they will ever be built. So what can you do to give us some hope that we can have a local rail station in Horbury or in Ossett, get it off the ground, get it moving, get it funded, and get it passenger ready within the next 5 years?
Thank you for that question. And it's been very pleasing to see the new stations that we have built in the region of Castleford. The renovation there is good to see. I have been lobbied about the new station. I think it is about the economic argument. So if you have the capacity to bring together the data where you can prove the numbers add up, that you have the footfall that will be economically viable, then bring that to the MCA via your leader, and we will see. But it is always about the numbers and the limited resources that we have and what we can deliver currently that's in our transformation plan and in obviously local plans as well. Whether there's housing that's going to be built nearby that would contribute to that economic argument, because it's always about the economy. And certainly Wetherby is another community that would really, there are people that would like a station there, but at the moment the economic argument isn't powerful enough. So it would be great just to see those numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. I'd just like to ask, please, that any discussion that takes place about the rail station in Ossett and Horbury, that my colleague, Councillor Fishwick, is involved in, because he has done massive amounts of work on this, and we also like all the councillors from Ossett and Horbury to be involved, not just certain members, just the odd one. We all 6 need to be involved in it, please, any future discussion. And rural, I beg your pardon. Yes. Thank you.
That submission is not in my gift, but my door is always open to anyone who wants to come and talk to me.
Councillor Gordon.
I'd just like to start by welcoming Tracy here today. I brought her a little treat, some brownies. I know that she's fond of them. I know it's been a long and arduous journey before you got here, but on the topic of long and arduous journeys, that is something that residents in Nottingley know all too well. When you were standing for election to be the West Yorkshire Mayor, you said that there were things that you'd be able to do in this role that you were unable to do as an MP. On the topic of making sure that we had a bus service that works for people. Obviously, I think everyone in this room and beyond would be inclined to agree that the buses aren't working. And while I accept some of that isn't necessarily your fault and it is down to the private providers, I do come back to the point that you made in a press release which said, if by the end of your term there aren't changes to the transport network, you will have failed and we must not vote for you again. What tangible changes have we got already? Because when we talk about things like the £2 bus cab fare, that was something that was given from central government to be implemented and has gone on further afield than just here in Wakefield. What you didn't mention as well was actually we saw prices when the Labour Party were campaigning saying any journey, any time, £2. We saw prices on inner city routes go up to £2. Was that a policy failure by not factoring in and having those discussions with Arriva beforehand? But fundamentally, I come back to it's not just buses, it's also trains too, as we've heard. So what more can you do to make sure that places on the periphery of West Yorkshire, like Nottingley, which is surrounded by North Yorkshire on 3 sides, have a public transport network that's fit for the future and actually enables us to live, work and prosper and grow, not just within West Yorkshire, but across Yorkshire as a whole?
Thank you, and a very good joke about the brownies, and I hope we can share them all out. And I hope they're not seen as gifting. So thank you very much for the brownie joke. Look, I'm going to be really frank with you about the buses. It is what I've staked my political capital on, because I'm a bus user. I want a better bus service. I know that so many people in West Yorkshire don't have a car. They rely on the bus network. And when there was the strike, in Wakefield, my inbox was full of people who were going to lose their job. Their child couldn't get to school, they couldn't get to college. I know how vital it is. Your point about so much not being in my gift, let me tell you how it is not in my gift. When we have bus companies that cynically increase the lowest fare in the same week as we bring in £2 fares. And when you say the government introduced the £2 fare, it was the government that were ringing our office saying, how are you doing this? We were innovating, we were at the front of this thinking, so much so that other mayoral colleagues had to speed up their announcement to join us, and the government's announcement of their £2 fare doesn't even kick in till January, and it's only for three months. Ours is for 3 years, subject to inflation, but we are determined to intervene as fast as we can. And if you look across the Pennines, Andy Burnham has been in post for 2 terms. I would like to say that the very fact that in 18 months we've seen that intervention at that speed would hopefully indicate my absolute determination and impatience to get the bus network better. But your point is valid about what has improved. It is so difficult when you have bus companies coming into your office with a list of 42 different routes that they're going to cut, and you're in negotiations with them to reduce that to 11 or to 20 instead of 42. I don't think the public necessarily see that. But this is our challenge, and I would say that it is not a challenge that is just the bus operator's problem. It is government problem because they are not funded correctly. This model does not work. It is letting down the people of our communities. It is letting down the north, and it is a perfect example of how this government cared 2 hoots about what happens in the north. So if you're happy to write a letter from the good people of Wakefield to government to tell them to meet me to discuss the buses, then I'd be happy to do it. Just to let you know, I am meeting the Transport Minister on the 22nd, and this is very much high on my agenda.
Thank you. Councillor Heptonstall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Chair. Madam Mayor, what I want to share with this meeting today is the thoughts and requests from Ward 16, which is a part of this district. Ward 16 abuts Wakefield City Centre along with North Ward and West Ward. And at the centre of this...
Can you speak to the director of the mic, please, because I'm struggling as well.
Sorry, sir, I couldn't hear what you were saying.
How's that? Is that better?
Oh,
Perfect.
Apologies, Madam Mayor. The information I'm going to share with this meeting today has been gained from residents of Ward 16, which abuts onto the city centre. Also abutting onto the city centre is West Ward and North Ward. At the centre of this is the Wakefield bus station. And I've been asked by employees of the bus companies to ask this question: what are you going to do to protect employees of these bus companies as regards antisocial behaviour, especially about making these streets late at night? That's one point. Second point is the bus station itself. This bus station has peak times like everywhere else. It's a focal point for people to meet, and it gets well used. We all want bus and other bus stations within this district? Thank you.
Thank you for that question, and it's something I hear a lot of around bus stations in particular. And when I was a Member of Parliament, I went out with emergency services one bonfire night. I was absolutely shocked and outraged at the mayhem and how much of a target buses were to antisocial behaviour. Obviously, that's a week a year, but I think there is far too much antisocial behaviour in bus stations. And to your point about what am I going to do, the brilliant thing of being the mayor, but also the police and crime commissioner, is there's like a Venn diagram where one of my responsibilities can be supported by another. So when we bid for the bus service improvement plan money, I was very clear that I wanted money for PCSOs to be on the bus network and in bus stations. Because like you've got transport police on the trains, there is nothing for buses. And I was really concerned as well that women felt unsafe on buses. That's why we've got the app. You'll see maybe if you travel on buses that there's a poster of how you can tell us where you feel unsafe, and it'll add to our data of where we need our PCSOs. But I'm hoping we can get 20 PCSOs across the network, the bus network, to make people feel safer. But there is one trick that Huddersfield do, Huddersfield bus station, is they play classical music over the tannoy, and apparently young people hate it. So they just don't go. So I just think it was quite a good creative trick to get young people who are just hanging around out of your bus station. But it's a worry for me, and we know that bus drivers in particular were at the front line during COVID. They paid a heavy price as well, losing far too many of their colleagues. And I want to publicly thank them for the work that they do, getting us out and about under great duress, often from antisocial behaviour. So thank you for that question.
All right, Councillor Hemingway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for being with us this afternoon, Tracy. I fully agree with the comments around buses. I think the sooner we see them back under control, the better to deal with many issues that we face with them. You've rightly made one of your key pledges as Mayor to tackle the climate emergency and protect the local environment. And we know this is the decisive decade for action on climate. And through your gain share funding, you've announced about £40 million going towards the West Yorkshire Climate Environment Plan to accelerate that action and bring that pledge forward. I just wonder if you could provide some detail to the Council on the progress on those actions to date, for the first phase of the plan in particular, and hopefully the positive impact that will have for Wakefield and the wider region when it comes to climate.
Thank you. And can I thank you for your leadership on the Climate and Environment Committee? This is vital for us. I mean, we see all the politicians don't really shine shake, but for our region, tackling the climate emergency has to be a priority, because if you talk about levelling up, you can't talk about levelling up and then not do anything about the climate emergency. How can you level up a community when businesses are being washed away by flooding, or homes being ruined, or people leaving the region because they can't cope with the flooding or the disruption? As Councillor Hemingway said, £40 million was allocated out of our budget for the emergency, but we've seen the crisis, the economic crisis, has come at us as well. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to tackle both things, hopefully at the same time. So, being able to say to businesses, we will give you money to green your processes, your manufacturing, whatever, if you come with us on this journey and you'll reduce your energy costs. We've doubled that because of the cost of living crisis. So that's £10 million. Then there will, as I read through, there are some businesses in Wakefield that are taking that. We've doubled the retrofit numbers. Now, it's only up to 3,000 socially rented homes. So 3,000 homes are going to be tackled, are going to be warmer. And I remember meeting a mum who was telling me that actually it's not just about having a warm home, it's better for family life because her kids can do their homework in their bedroom rather than all be in the warm room in the house, in the kitchen, and fighting and squabbling. So that's what we're doing as a sort of emergency plan. But we are developing the at speed what we can deliver out of this 40 million. And to be honest, it isn't enough to get to zero carbon by 2038. So it's solar panel on schools. That is a big project. It is the Better Homes Hub, where a one-stop shop where you can go and get advice on how to retrofit your home. It's my 1,000 green jobs, which has been really important. It's working with the manufacturing task force, how we can green some of those manufacturing processes, because we are hyper-exposed in our region to industries that are no longer fit for the future. So that's why it's brilliant to have the £65 million of adult education budget, offering retraining and courses to pivot into retrofitting and into ground source heat pumps and so on, and obviously working with the trade unions about how we can help them. It's also, we thought we'd get money from government to invest in flooding mitigations. We haven't. So we're going to be allocating money to that, but also biodiversity, to greening our communities and making sure that everybody in West Yorkshire has a green space to go to with their kids, because it is shocking the numbers of families that have no green space. So I'm very happy to circulate more information in more detail with the money allocated for each particular funding strand. If people in the room are interested, and I'll send that over to Councillor Hemingway so that can be shared and distributed.
Thank you. Councillor Graham.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for coming today, Tracy. As you mentioned earlier, Wakefield is, across the district, is really known for its culture. And we have some fantastic institutions. You mentioned Capel College, the Art House. We've also got our castles, YSP, National Coal Mining Museums. And it's not just about those institutions. The people within our district are extremely creative. We have a very proud history and a very proud heritage as well. Lots of stories to tell. 2024, we're planning on being our year. And that's a real opportunity not only to explore that history and celebrate it, but I think now more than ever we need to bring communities together. People need that hope and that enthusiasm, being able to come together and celebrate and create some new memories as well. So my question to you is, one, will you come to Wakefield District during that year and support us physically? And also, what can you and the combined authority do to support us in other ways as well?
Thank you for that question. This is my happy place, talking about culture. I could talk about it all afternoon, but I won't. But I want to say congratulations on your leadership that you're showing for your amazing festival. We are in an extraordinary position in West Yorkshire. We've got Leeds 2023, Kirklees Year of Music, Calderdale Year of Culture, Wakefield Year of Culture, Bradford City of Culture 2025. And I do think we have 48 more funding streams from the Arts Council than we've had before. The most money we've ever had in national portfolio holder funding streams. And part of what the Arts Council said was the leadership of our region has given them the confidence to invest. And I think that is not about me, that is about councils, even in austerity, even at a time of cost of living crisis, understanding that what really matters is well-being of our citizens and that culture should be available to all. So one of the first things I did when I became your mayor was to fund the Mayor's Screen Diversity Programme in film and TV. The first cohort have been through 100% employment. That is why the Creative Catalyst, £2 million going to businesses to improve their export. That's why I set up my culture committee with £11.5 million so that we can fund brilliant year-long festivals. But what's also really important is that we support working class talent and voices. And I do think that the £500,000 that we've allocated for social prescribing, and for those that don't know, I'm sure you all know, but it's dance for dementia sufferers or art for people who are suffering with depression. It'll enable us to employ working class local talent to stay doing the thing that they want to do, and also helping our communities through creative social prescribing. We have so much going on at the moment in West Yorkshire, and I know that Wakefield is going to be really up there with the best and their cultural offer. So I just say publicly, anything I can do to help Wakefield, I'm there.
Thank you. Councillor Dagger and Councillor Holland. Councillor Dagger.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the West Yorkshire Mayor's pledges was to bring buses back into public ownership. Could you tell us, what progress you've made on this and a possible timescale for completion?
Thank you. Well, in the first week I became your mayor, I signed the paperwork to start the process of looking into franchising. It is a huge legal process, a timescale given to us by government. We have to cross every T and dot every I. You'll have seen in Manchester that Mayor Burnham had a judicial review and conflict with the bus operators. We don't want to be in that position. We want to make sure that we've done everything appropriately. But whilst we're doing that, and we'll get to that point of decision before my next election, so you can vote for me or not based on that, we've also undertaken our enhanced partnership. And like I say, that's brought in £70 million into our region to make our bus networks better. We still haven't got the money from government, let me say, so the £2 fare is currently at risk. We are backing it because we believe it's the right thing to do. We are waiting for government to give us that money directly. I've been reassured there's no problem, but the chaos, the churn, the mayhem, the drama in Westminster is holding regions like ours back. They don't share our ambition, it seems, so I'm doing everything in my power to get to that point.
Thank you. Councillor Holland.
Thank you for finally arriving in Wakefield, Madam Mayor. But in his first year of office, West Midlands Mayor Andy Street secured the Commonwealth Games for Birmingham. He organised and trained 7,500 unemployed West Midlands people to take up roles in staging the Games, giving them valuable work experience and opportunity. He used his abundant business skills and know-how to make sure that West Midlands became the 5G technology test bed, it's easy for me to say. In his first period of office, he was instrumental in attracting 97,000 new jobs to his region and has recently refused a pay increase, despite the fact that he's already earning less than 75% of your £106,837. So, can we assume you're going to undertake to refuse any further pay rises until your achievements equal that of Mr. Street and your wages similar?
Can I say Madam Mayor sits a bit weirdly? Please call me Tracy. I'm delighted that you are such a fan of Andy Street. He is one of the 10 mayors in England. We are a collective of the M10. Andy actually nominated me to be the chair of the M10, and I recently had a visit to Birmingham and his community, and I heard also what he has achieved and delivered. And all credit to him and to all the other mayors across the region, across the country, who are delivering under extreme pressure and difficulty. And I know that he is happy to work with me and has worked with me on a number of initiatives, whether that's challenging the government on the bus recovery grant, whether that's talking about infrastructure investment, and I'd be really happy to supply you with our achievements. I'm not sure we're into top trumps with other mayors, but I hope that 18 months in, that I can reassure you that my manifesto pledges, which I was democratically elected on, we are delivering. We've delivered some. We're on the way to deliver others, and this is not the end of the story. I'm ambitious for our region, as I'm sure every mayor who is democratically elected is ambitious for their region.
Is that a yes or a no?
Councillor Holland, if you want to ask a supplementary question, you can. Oh, thank you. Councillor Bowley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So welcome, Tracy. Just want to echo the Leader of Opposition to welcome you to this council chamber. So that's after India, after New York, after perhaps some other exotic places. I am a travel agent, so I know the best places in the world, but Wakefield is the best. So you have missed your trip in the last 18 months, I have to say. So I have to go back to bus service because I am a rural councillor, and the bus service in Netherton has reached a critical point at the moment. And I'm not kidding. When you are globe trotting, we have people can't even go to the hospital appointment because no bus. We have people cannot go to college because there's no bus. People can't travel. People can't go elderly, actually can't go shopping. So in Netherton, I know that you said it's not all your fault, but 18 months, blame the government or even blame a river on its own is no longer enough. So I want to know what the mayor can do to have some release fund, so emergency release fund for the bus services in the rural area of Wakefield, and that has been done this winter, not 2024 when you got your £70 million money, but well done for £70 million. So the other thing is, Tracy, this morning you actually were on the BBC Breakfast, and you did mention about the Victorian railways that's underfunded in this region. I understand what you're saying, but however, based on that, you also mentioned about cancelled journeys of thousands of trips being cancelled. So will you please come to the council to condemn the strikes from the bus company and also from the rail company? Thank you.
Thank you. So taking both of those questions, I really hope that you've contributed to the Mayor's Big Boss chat, because I need to know from you where you need that bus to go when we are developing our new routes. You will know that the Shared Prosperity Fund, which was meant to be equivalent to the European funding, which is a third, if that, of much. And your point is really valid. I think the 5 towns have got the worst offer. And that's why the Arriva cuts were so devastating, because there's no trains even. Everybody relies on that bus network. And with regard to mass transit, it is a long process. I mean, it's a £200 million investment so far. It's a £2 billion project. And it's going to be decades long. And that's why I've written to government to say, you've got to show long-term investment. It can't be something that flip-flops, because we've got to get going. We cannot fall at that hurdle as we have done historically. I think it's twice now. We've been close to getting it over the line and not done so. This is a massive infrastructure investment. We can't afford to lose it, and we've got to show vision. So there will be that public consultation when we get to that point. We're already at the statutory consultation, so once we get to the public, hopefully it's going to be spring next year. I need to check that, but hopefully we're going to get to that point where public can feed in. But I really get it. And I've been saying to government, we need investment in the Gould line, because that would really help us. Now, Northern have shown no appetite to do it, but I think government could do it quite easily. I know that the MP in Gould wants to work with us. We'd work with them, and I think it would bring an extra bit of connectivity to your region, up into Leeds as well as into Gould and those jobs there. But I honestly hear what you're saying.
Thank you. Councillor Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, you made comments about antisocial behaviour, which I'm surprised that you said they'd reduced, because in my ward, in Oxford and Goldthorpe and the neighbouring ward in Albury, the antisocial behaviour has actually gone through the roof. I attend New Wiltshire, we all attend numerous PAC meetings, and the fear I've got now is that people are actually going to be doing vigilantes. Mentioned it the last PAC meeting that I attended. They seem to have lost complete faith in the police. I'll give you an example. A resident in my area had his 2 bags stolen. So the thief has obviously followed him back to his house. They've stolen the bags. He's put on Facebook any information about the bags, and the thief has actually gone and said, would you like to buy the bags back? The police have been informed. They've gone onto a list of bags that are stolen. So there's a little flame outside of the bags that are stolen. Their 2 bags on that site that have been stolen. The police have done nothing. So I'd just like to ask you, simply, a lot of residents in my area have lost faith in the police. So what are you going to do about installing that faith once again to the residents? Because the residents are sick of the antisocial behaviour, thieves getting away with it, culprits getting away with it, because it's the victims that are not put first. Thank you.
Thank you for that feedback. So a couple of things. One, if Alison Lowe, my deputy mayor, hasn't been to your community, we can make that happen, and you could have a public meeting and you could talk through some of these issues. 2, people feel that there is no point reporting. But the problem is with resources, resources come to where there is harm and risk. So clustering of data helps. So even if you think, oh, nothing's going to be done, please, please, please report it. Also, you've got your Safe Community Partnership that is on the ground, people that you can turn to that are funded by us, and it comes through Wakefield Council. Also, the Mayor's Community Safety Fund, which works with early intervention, is an opportunity for organisations to, we've now widened it from £6,000 to £8,000 for projects, particularly around that early intervention. Now, I just wanted to just check the numbers, that we've funded 8 projects in Wakefield over the last 2 grant rounds, and these projects have reached 770 individuals. But actually, your district generally submits fewer numbers of applications compared to the others, with the exception of Calderdale. So we work hard trying to engage with your district, but if you could also maybe, we've got an excellent relationship with Nova, who might be able to encourage anyone who'd like to apply or find out further information about those funding rounds, because this is proceeds of crime, and it's proceeds of crime money that comes back into the communities to keep people safer and to feel safer. And also, can I just, I mentioned I was going to pick out a couple of Wakefield colleagues. Jez Mitchell from Wakefield Council and Chris Raby from Wakefield West Yorkshire Police, they presented to Partnership Executive Group on the Learning from Project ADDA and the Pilot Joint Enforcement and Drug Treatment Pilot Project. Now, I want to capitalise on that investment and that work, because so much of this as well is petty crime, like you say, drug and alcohol. Let's try and get a grip of this for your community, but happy to work with you. But please, please, everyone, if this is happening in your ward, in your community, please do report it, because the clustering brings resources.
Thank you. I'm holding 6 questions now fully. We've got just over 12 minutes.
Do you want to cluster them together?
No, because obviously from different parts of the room.
Oh.
So, Councillor Ferguson.
I'll be quick.
Hi, Tracy, welcome. I'm from Airedale. I represent Airedale. My question is about culture and heritage, and specifically about women in sport. We've got a real long history and tradition in our district of rugby league, and at the moment we're coming to the end of a fantastic rugby league tournament where we've got the guys and the women and the wheelchair users, and I'm here to lobby your support, please, in terms of the women's rugby league, and ask if we can get some support from yourself whilst the strike while the iron is hot, but the professionalisation of women's rugby league, please. Straightforward request.
Yes, and just for your knowledge that my Culture and Sport Committee has got a gentleman from Hercules called Baloo, who was a Nigerian super rugby player, and I played for his country, and he's done amazing work in Berkenshaw, bringing girls into rugby. And what we want to do is we want to use that learning, that pilot, to do more across the region. I'm proud that we are the home of Rugby League, so very happy to help, and please do reach out.
Thank you. Councillor Cummings.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome, Tracy. Welcome to Wakefield, and thank you for coming. My question's a little bit sombre.
Mike,
always.
Mike.
That is my role, thank you. Councillor Cummings.
Thank you. My question's a little bit sombre, sombre from the rest, but a very important subject, I believe. Suicide rates in Wakefield are currently 17.3 per 100,000 population, and among the highest in the country. We've had recently, between October 21 and April 22, 29 people have committed suicide across our district. Some of them under 25, some of them in their teens. The police have dealt with over 1,100 missing person inquiries over the last 12 months, and many of those are at high risk. In 2021, the coroner registered 51 deaths by suicide in our district. That's equivalent to one every 7 days. The police do have mental health liaison nurses on patrol. And these are nurses that often accompany the police to incidents, whether they're fatal or a possible fatal. Sadly, these nurses are not available 24/7, and suicide, as you know, can happen between 9 and 5. And this leaves the police to deal with some really, really traumatic incidents. The cost of living crisis, as we know at the moment, is on the rise, and I suspect, as you will probably suspect, that suicide rates will follow the rise of cost of living. Could I persuade you to investigate the use of some of your grant funding to actually help recruit more mental health liaison nurses who play an invaluable role at supporting victims
families and to the police where these incidents occur.
Thank you for raising that question. And you're so right that our police officers often have to see the most unbearable things. And missing people, I get the readout every day of what their work log has been. Missing people are such a massive part of police work, whether that's young people missing from families, missing from children's homes, or people who are vulnerable, older people, but also those at risk of taking their own life. So very much support your campaign, and let's talk further about that. It is deeply tragic, and I've written to government to ask for extra funding for the police, understanding the pressure on the police is going to be increased because of the cost of living crisis.
Thanks. Councillor Wallace and then Councillor Haynes.
Thank you. Hello, Tracy.
Hello.
Hi. Like you, I'm a keen user of public transport. I don't have a car, but I like using public transport. I took the train this morning from Casper to attend a Wakefield economic school trip, where we talked about some of the things which you gave me an answer to Councillor Scott. And I was also pleased to see that you are working with bus companies, this is about buses, in the problem that they've got there, which is with recruiting drivers. So I was keen to see a lot of the initiatives that you set up there and the way you tackle the problem. I also think it's an excellent idea what you've done with capping bus fares. But, and this is where I'm going to ask you what your opinion is on this. Unfortunately, the bus companies have raised low fares up to the cap, and at the same time, they've also abolished return fares, which means that there's been a significant increase in bus fares for a minority of people who are on low income, travelling short distances. I just wondered what your views on that, whether, as you look at improving the bus service, I'm very pleased that you recognise the problem of buses, the problematic state it's in. I just wonder if what you're thinking that way is and how it's going to affect future plans for bus pricing.
Thank you for that question. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, I was frustrated to see the uplift in the cheaper under £2 fares. The bus company said it's just part of their regular inflation raising bus fares. So, I mean, we will take your own view on that. I'm a bit confused about abolishing return fares. So let me take that away and look into that. Is that Arriva or First? So?
This is Arriva.
All right, let me look into that, and maybe we can speak afterwards, because I need to know whether that's if you pay cash or if it's on your app, because the day saver, 450 day saver, you can go anywhere, any bus, and so you can do a first journey, second. So I'm not sure how they've abolished returns. Okay, but thank you for that.
Thank you. Councillor Haynes.
Thanks, Tracy. Sometimes, in my experience, the West Yorkshire Combined Authority appears a little bit more like the Leeds Metropolitan Authority, because majority of residents in my constituency, which is at the southeast corner of Wakefield, are making a 15-20 mile journey every morning to go to work. And I'm of the opinion that the Combined Authority would help the constituent towns, such as Wakefield and Bradford, better if they were to have dedicated centres for employment, say make Wakefield Financial Centre or a Technology Centre or something else. And then we'd be able to attract worthwhile work within our own town to release the pressure, immense pressure on the infrastructure by the movement of traffic, and then you trying to fight with the bus companies to create an effective bus system. I think if we had cooperation from West Yorkshire Combined Authority, rather than their domination in Leeds of wanting to have everything in Leeds, whatever comes available, whether it's Channel 4 television or whatever it is, Leeds apply for it, and they want any governance work or the accountancy work or the finance work, but if it was spread out like they do in the European scheme of things, in Germany, for example, of a financial town and a town that does technology and what have you, things would work a lot better all round in Yorkshire. I don't know if you agree.
Thank you. And having been the MP for Batley and Spen, I absolutely hear you about villages and towns and the non-metropolitan regions across West Yorkshire. But that's devolution brings us that opportunity to speak about West Yorkshire in its entirety, not just, obviously Leeds is an amazing global facing city, but so is Bradford. That has a lot to offer. So does Wakefield, Halifax and Huddersfield too. And I am the champion for all of those regions. But to your point, we are doing a piece of work about working with local authority leaders, about all of us being able to talk about West Yorkshire and clustering regions in talent. What do you do best? What can we say when we go to businesses? Well, actually, I know you want to be in Leeds, but all of your supply chain is in Huddersfield. All of your workforce will be in Huddersfield because they're all into manufacturing, or in Wakefield. So I can make that case. And anybody that's been in a meeting with me with businesses looking to come and invest, I want to reassure you that I am not Leeds focused. I'm absolutely about growth because the opportunity is within touching distance. The opportunity for growth is Wakefield, it is Huddersfield and their civic quarter, it is Calderdale and the Peace Hall. There's so much to sing and dance about, but it isn't, you know, a business will come in or, for example, the Bank of England, they want to be in Leeds where there is that cultural offer, and that's why the cultural offer in Wakefield is really important, because I can say your workforce will have an amazing quality of life here in Wakefield, working and living here because of the great things they can do at the weekend. I take your point.
Thank you. It's 29 minutes past, so it allows another question. So, Councillor Hayes, please.
I see my colleague is on his feet, so...
I noticed that as well, but you're not getting away with that. Councillor Hayes.
Given the cost of living crisis, will you rule out introducing a mayoral precept or tax?
Yes, for this year, yes.
Right. That was a very tidy ending.
It was a nice quick answer.
There were two other I identified, but if I can ask those gentlemen to write their questions, I'll be very grateful. Right, colleagues, I'll now take a 10-minute adjournment.
Ladies and gentlemen, council members, with the upstanding, whilst the mayor will pass, leave the council chamber.
Great. Thank you, everybody. It's great to see you all.
Right, thank you colleagues. Be seated. Notice there were no chocolate brownies left over when I went past the box. Anyway.
They were very nice.
Oh, thank you, Anne-Marie, for that. Appreciate your description. Okay, right, the next item is agenda item 4, which is to deal with such announcements I may decide to make for council. I was saddened to hear the passing of former councillor and mayor, Norman Hazel. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family and loved ones at this time. I would be grateful if council could join me now in observing a minute's silence on behalf of Mr. Hazel. Thank you. Can I also add, our thoughts are also extended to Councillor Maston and their family following the passing of Councillor Maston and Mum recently. I would also like to welcome our LGA, National Graduate Development Programme staff who are here observing our meeting today, something I thoroughly approve of, so I'm glad you've joined us. The programme gives councils the opportunity to build capacity and to nurture and develop their own talent while providing an opportunity for talented graduates to fast-track their local government career. Through a highly competitive process which has attracted over 5,000 applicants last year, the programme matches bright, passionate graduates with councils across the country. Wakefield has recruited 7 graduates to the programme this year, and they have been placed in a variety of services. So good luck. I'm pleased to report that since our last meeting, the Mayor's sponsored charity abseil from Wakefield Cathedral Spire has raised in excess of £4,500, and money is still coming in, so if you've got a little bit more to come in, then obviously we'll gratefully receive it. Thank you to everyone who bravely volunteered or sponsored those who did. Their contributions will make a huge difference to our charities. Last weekend was particularly poignant as I led the district in our acts of remembrance. Over 2,500 people attended the Wakefield City Reflame service, and in contrast to those later to unveil the St John's Ambulance World War I commemoration tablet, which is now situated in Pontefract Town Hall, and the Mine Workers Rescue Stone situated at Eames Road. My thanks to the Deputy Mayor for attending the unveiling of the Veterans Hub in Pontefract Park, which will be not Pontefract, Hurston Park. Hurston Park, yes. I realised straight away the geographical inaccuracy. It's all right. I should not mention Hurston Park, which will be an invaluable resource and place of refuge for our military personnel. The Mayor and I have attended a wide and fulfilling diary of engagements this past few weeks, and my congratulations to all of our students graduating from Wakefield College, whose businesses are recognised at the Wakefield Bid Awards evening, and recipients of the Lord Lieutenant's Volunteer Awards and also the Wakefield's Volunteer Awards. All fantastic events and clearly show what a great district we are. Finally, can I recommend to you that the Mayor's Carol service will be taking place on Wednesday, the 14th of December at Wakefield Cathedral, commencing at 7 p.m, and everyone is welcome to join us. Thank you, colleagues, and that concludes my announcements. Agenda item 5, which is the Leaders' Report. Once the Leaders has presented their report, you will receive comments or answers any questions from members on the matters raised in her report. The maximum 30 minutes will be allowed for her report, followed by 30 minutes for questions and answers. Councillor Jeffrey.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to pay tribute to Norman Hazel. He was an amazing character, and he did a lot of good work for his constituents, and he did a lot of work within the council and contributed quite a lot. He was a real character. Those of you who knew him, and he really was. And I do send regards to his wife and his family. Tom, the cakes were wonderful. I was really starving, I had no lunch, and so it was great. But Tony volunteered to bring them at Christmas. Thank you, Tony.
I've eaten them already.
So I should look forward to some probably pies from Tony. Just a few things, because I think we've probably all had a long session now, and people are wanting to go home. The last few months have been dire at national level. The Conservatives trashed the economy. We've had 2 Prime Ministers, we've got a new one without a mandate. And tomorrow we're waiting for the Chancellor to tell us our fate. It won't be good for local government, it never is. We're all in poor relation with anything coming forward, but we're the ones who have to look after people, and we are the frontline services. So we've got some trepidation tomorrow as to what we do. Myself and the Cabinet have been working on budgets for some time, and that will be coming forward early next year. And I know that all parties will be having briefings from the Chief Financial Officer on the budget. But for local government, I don't believe that it's going to be a good time at all. However, we will continue as a council to look after our residents, something that the government are not doing, but we will make sure that we do. The remembrance services across this district have been absolutely amazing over this weekend. So many people attending, more and more people come out to attend, and it just shows how people value the armed forces, they really do. And the Festival of Remembrance, Mr. Mayor, that you had on Friday night was so well attended, and such a moving service. I think all of us who went really enjoyed that. One of the good things that we did a fortnight ago was to open the Veterans Home in Featherstone. I won't say Thurston Park in case I get it wrong, but yes it was. And along with the Armed Forces champion Councillor Vickers, it was so well attended. And one of the things that was so heartwarming was that I met 3 Afghan veterans who had relocated in our district, who were living, some in Michael's Ward, some in Graham's Ward, and how they felt that we've really welcomed them into our communities, and I thought that was something really special. And then there's been lots of key decisions taken recently by the controlling group, and Cabinet colleagues will probably be speaking on some of them, but there's 1.5 million funding to prevent ill health across the district. Funding to improve football, leisure and sporting opportunities, funding to refurbish the Thorns track at Thorns Park, and the launch of a new library programme to help support mental health and well-being of teenagers across the district. And in my own ward, I'm pleased to say that we have 12.5 million building a new health hub in Castleford. And again, my ward colleague Maureen will probably want to speak on a bit more about this, but you will have seen that we are investing in warm spaces across the district, in libraries and in places to look after people of this district. Something that we have been doing through COVID and austerity, and again, this is what we shall do through the heating and lighting crisis over the next few months. I'll leave it there, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffrey. Are there any comments or questions on Councillor Jeffrey's report? Councillor Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment. I'd like to thank Councillor Jeffrey and Councillor Gray for their work, and also the officers for the work they did for getting the Gossett Cricket Club started. But we will be coming back with some more. Very sure. Thank you.
I don't doubt it.
Councillor Homewood.
Thank you, Mr. Mr Mayor. If I could associate myself with the words expressed by Councillor Jeffreys, not the ones to do with the government, but the ones to do with Norman Hazel, who was a good old friend of mine, and he was a good guy, and I had a lot of time for him. And his last years, sort of, most of the time I saw him was either election times when he turned up, telling me he wasn't happy about, or at people's funerals, where I used to try and make him laugh during the service, and quite often did. But he's a great loss, and he's a great loss to Wakefield, because he was Mr Wakefield, he just really was. So thank you for your kind words.
Thank you. Councillor Lord.
It was just to reassure you I didn't make the brownies myself. The one just from the corner of Wood Street and Cross Street, baked by Vanilla B. If you do want any more, I'm sure I'd appreciate it. So yeah, I'm definitely not auditioning for Bake anytime soon, and you probably have got me been here a little bit longer. The reason that I was wanted to add on to the point that Denise made about the economy and the fact that we have seen the government trash the economy. One of the things that's been mooted and sort of been pre-leaked and touted as a potential that we might see tomorrow is the government may lift the cap at which councils can increase council tax. That obviously is a bit of a race to the bottom, kicking the can down the road on government's part, and it was just to see if that Denise, the leader of the council and the cabinet, would try to do their best to mitigate and not have to raise council tax at a time when residents across the district already face an increased cost of living. I appreciate it's always difficult setting a balanced budget, but a race to the bottom by government, throwing the can back to local government to pick up the cost isn't the solution in my mind, just to bear that in mind. That was it really.
I'm sorry you didn't vote yourself. I thought you must have done. No, yes, obviously the council tax is a serious issue. We haven't come to any decisions yet, but there will be full consultation on that. But it is aware that we shall have to take into account the finances of the council and the people. And again, what will happen with the government is they'll say to us we can raise it, and then it can be us that are taking the money away from people of our district. So there is a real balance there.
Right, thank you, Councillor Jeffrey. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I probably want to thank our leader of the council to at last bring the Mayor of West Yorkshire to this council. But however, there's not enough time to ask a question that she has not answered us in 18 months' time. So one of them would be the Mayor was very happy about, pleased about her achievement to bring business to the region. One of them she actually gave example for is the one from India to Leeds. So I just wonder whether this council know what inbound investment opportunity we've had so far for the last 18 months since the Mayor been incorporated, and just want to make sure that we put our pressure firmly on these authorities' leverage, because we also need investment. It's not just the funding from the government, but however, the private or global investment come to our Wakefield. So thank you for the leader to consider this.
Yeah. What we'll do, Samantha, is we'll send a briefing out. We'll gather it together and send something round to us.
Okay. Right, can we move on then please to agenda item 6, which is Cabinet Members' reports. Cabinet members have up to 5 minutes to present their reports and are referred to 15 minutes allocated to enable each Cabinet member to respond to any questions or brief comments on matters within their portfolio area. First report is from Councillor Hemingway, Deputy Leader and Portfolio for Climate Change and Environment. Please introduce your reports.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Sorry to forget. Can I associate myself with the leader of the remarks about Norman Hazel? I met him a few times, and it was clear he was an elder statesman, very much respected, I think, by all parties, not just the party which he originally stood for. He was a sadness to this district, which was how it was passed on. In moving my report, I want to draw members' attention particularly to pages 18 and 19. As I reported previously, we have a situation with avian flu It's a national situation, but it has significant impacts here. We're monitoring very closely the cases of the virus within wild bird and domestic and agricultural populations across the district. There have been a number of cases reported, the most recent at Hemsworth Water Park. Fortunately, we get to identify any cases in domestic or agricultural settings that would necessitate quarantine, but it's really crucial we all keep vigilance, and if we do get reports of dead birds, that we report to environmental health. We're also encouraging the public not to feed wildfowl at our country parks and parks. It can be a vector of transmission between wild and domestic birds if that happens, so please support that message if you can to make sure this virus doesn't spread in our bird populations. We brought forward a paper to Cabinet which has been approved to move to electric vehicle procurement for our small and medium vehicle fleet. It's a great step. Over the next 4 years, as those vehicles reach the end of life, we'll replace them with electric and cut our emissions by about 12%, as well as saving fuel costs for the council in the long run. And some more good news, I'm pleased to report that the area of Falls Park is due to complete at the end of this month, and work is starting on parks right around the district, so the improvement programme is really driving forward at pace now. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or brief comments? Councillor Haynes.
Thanks, Mayor. Councillor Way, your green agenda took a lion's share of the budget for this year, and 5 million to introduce new vehicles, 500 new vehicles. Your target date is 2030, so will you be expecting the same size budget for the next 8 years, or will the budget go down, your requirements go down over that 8-year period, and what will the indication be to you that you've achieved what you set out to achieve?
Thank you, Councillor. Well, I can say that the climate budget didn't take up the lion's share of the budget. That's children's services and adults. If you look at council budgets, they're very much where the majority of our spending goes. In fact, the climate reserve is only £10 million compared to the council budget of several hundred million, and the capital programme, which is also a similar size. So it's simply not the case that that's the lion's share of the budget. This 5.9 million investment will be over 4 years to move that part of the electric vehicle fleet, the fleet over to electric, and that will, as I said, reduce our emissions by about 12%. We know we need to deliver other big schemes which we're planning, like the solar farms, mine water heat, decarbonisation of council buildings, and I'm confident we can get there by 2030. I think, as the Mayor said, the wider district and West Yorkshire target 2038, we really do need more government support for that, because we simply don't have the resources on our own. But I reject the characterisation that we're spending all money on green projects. That's not the case. We're spending a very small fraction of the council budget in a very pragmatic way that gives value to the taxpayer, as well as reducing our emissions.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very quick question. Do we have any strategic plan to clean up some polluted river in the region, in our district? I haven't seen any strategic plan so far.
Thanks, Councillor. Well, rivers are the responsibility of the Canal Rivers Trust and also the Environment Agency rather than the Council specifically. I'd love to see our rivers cleaned up. I think we're in an appalling state. It's a shame that the government didn't go to stop sewage being dumped into rivers when they had the opportunity a few months ago. We should have absolutely banned that, and I'd love to see that practice ended. So I'm happy to campaign and work with people to abolish that practice so our rivers once again can be a home for nature and fit for people to bathe in. I think some of the latest studies that have shown rivers are full of E. coli, harmful bacteria. It's absolutely scandalous that in this day and age, water companies are allowed to dump raw human sewage into our river network. So I'm happy to campaign for improvements to river quality, and if you want to read about that, to
Councillor Graham.
Thanks, Mayor. Just to say a massive thank you to Jack. We all know Thorns Park play area, not just used by people in my ward, but it's used by people all across the city and beyond. It's a real destination, and to see that finally come into completion, and myself, Councillor Swift and Councillor Mitchell, as well as members of the public, have worked hard on the steering group to get this work underway, and as well the lake works as well. The
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jack, I've raised this with you before, just slightly. Battery-powered vehicles, you do realise that certain countries have basically cornered the market on the elements you need to manufacture one of these batteries, and you do understand the problems with dismantling them and all the rest. I'm just wondering, because I don't think anybody takes this into account, child labour and things like this that are used to dig up some of this stuff. And I mean, frankly, it's not quite as green as it looks when you actually do the digging.
Well, I accept that point, Councillor. I think we're always keen to have ethical procurement, and anything that we source, we will make sure that is ethically procured. I think in terms of the sourcing of lithium, there has been a proposal to expand the mine in Cornwall, which would significantly generate capacity for UK production. I think if we had a government that invested in green technologies and got them off the ground, and also invested more in battery recycling, then we wouldn't have these problems necessarily. But there's definitely more to do on the technology. That's why we're not investing in heavy vehicles with batteries at the moment. It's not quite there yet. We're taking a pragmatic approach to procure over a 4-year period rather than just instantaneously for all the vehicle fleet. So we'll keep it under review, and I can assure you that we're pressing hard to make sure that any batteries we source are ethically procured.
Yes, just a very brief point regarding avian flu. I've obviously been aware of the council's press releases and so on. I've not yet seen, stand to be correct, I've not yet seen much by way of social media presence or public presence for that campaign. Do we have that in hand? I'm thinking, in a sense, it would be very helpful, but I think things like signing jacks, the bins that we, sort of dog poo bins and things like that, where people are likely to see affected birds. But it's something that at the moment we've seen a few press releases around, but there doesn't seem to be a strong public awareness campaign. Is it in hand?
Yeah, thank you, David. I think it's a valid point. It's certainly something we're looking to do. We just put out the main comms recently this week. We have been pushing a message through the channels. I know the Express have covered it. It has been on their Facebook page as well. But we'll look to look at the sign.
Councillor Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just first of all say congratulations to Jack and the team for the work that they're doing in terms of the climate change agenda. Not only through planting new trees, but being really aware of what's happening in terms of deforestation and a program on television which was alarming in terms of what was happening in some forests where they should be cutting down trees, and some of that was going to transportation. And it really opened my eyes in terms of what's happening across the world. As well as that, I think the work that's going on here, and any spend that's being built lately in terms of our new vehicle purchases has to be commended. The targets that have been set are certainly something we're all very realistic about, and actually achieving those targets, which if you look on the government's own website have been criticised of late for not achieving any of the targets that they were supposed to do up to press. So well done to everybody involved, and keep up the good work, Jack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that, Betty. I absolutely agree with you. I think it was scandalous that the government's own climate change commitments were ruled out of order and it was illegal that they weren't actually honouring them. I think you raise a really valid point about deforestation and drax in particular. I think it's awful that the recent panorama report showed that virgin forests and long-growth woodland in Canada is actually going into a power station in the UK being subsidised by the UK government. It's a scandal that trees are being burned to generate power. So it's something we really need to expose and wind down. And certainly we've committed to look at any sort of biomass the council uses. It's not a fuel source we particularly favour. I think there's a backup in some boilers in some areas. So I'd like to see that phased out completely. And if there is a campaign to call for drags to end the burning of biomass, I very much support that.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Okay. Right, the next report is portfolio holder for... Oh, sorry, Councillor. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jack, I saw this about crematorium regulations, and I know more about crematoria than it's helpful for anyone to know, really. But I'm just wondering, look, with the increase in gas prices and stuff like that, and I know how much it costs, or the last one I did, how much it costs to cremate a body, right? And you know, that price must have significantly increased. And I just wondered how the council would do that, whether they had any plans to change or make available other methods of disposal, shall we say, that are more liquid nitrogen. I'm quite looking forward to that one if you can get it in before I go.
Thank you for that suggestion, Councillor. No, it is a very important point to make. I mean, the cost of gas has gone up absolutely astronomically. We're very mindful of the cost that is in the authority, but also the cost that is to people who want to have their relatives cremated. And I think while we are discussing budget issues at the moment, and that will be part of the budget discussions and considerations, we're always mindful of the impact that has on families, the cost that comes with. I think in terms of other solutions, if you've got any practical suggestions, I've not looked at liquid nitrogen. I know there's the Rastrian method where they leave people to be exposed on hilltops. I don't think that would quite be suitable here, but if you've got any practical suggestions that you think we should be looking at, I'm very happy to take those on board. Thank you for that big count.
I have to say I did not see that one coming today. But I can talk about India because I've seen a few films in India. Right, okay, thank you. All finished? Fine. Right, the next report is the portfolio holder for children and young people. Councillor Isherwood, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I echo support for the comments already made about Councillor Hazel? We had the fortunate experience. Greg was the Mayor of Featherstone at the time that Councillor Hazel was the Mayor of Wakefield, so I met him on a number of occasions, and he was always such a gentleman. So yes, I do echo those comments already made. Coming to my report, I'd like to really highlight the work done by our young people and also the celebration we had for the young people with care experience recently. I think it's amazing what they do, and it was great to be able to be there to help them celebrate the achievements that they've made over the years. And I'd also like to comment on the takeover of the Children and Young People Partnership by the young people once again. It's inspiring to see how they work, how they think, and the ideas that they come forward with, which are so important for us to move forward, to help them as they travel along in life's path. I know also the healthy activities and food programme. I want to take the opportunity to thank all the people involved, the officers, and also the people that provide places for the children to take advantage of what is given. It's really grown over the 2 or 3 years that we've been running it. We're still going to be running one at Christmas time. And at this time, when families are facing such hardship, this is the sort of project that we need to be promoting. And although it's not in my report, Mr. Mayor, I have to congratulate staff on the successful Social Care Workers of the Year award. The council actually received a silver in the Sportive Social Worker Employer Award, which recognises an organisation that is supportive, provides excellent leadership and champions of social work staff. And also a special congratulations to Carolyn Smith, who won the Practice Educator of the Year Gold Award for her amazing work with our newly qualified social workers. So well done to all of the teams involved. There were a lot of other nominations, but unfortunately they didn't get the awards. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I will close up. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or brief comments? Councillor Hale.
Yeah, just a massive thank you to Margaret Isherwood and the whole team. We've got the Connect Cafe, or WF Connect Cafe, not Light Waste. And when the voucher schemes are put out, we get so many people coming into the centre who don't have any access granting to come and use the facility to be able to download the vouchers. And also we've been looking to run the Happy Healthy Holiday programme, and to get the amount of children that we're getting into the centre, to be able to offer them 4 hours of activity, 4 days a week over the holiday period, as well as giving them hot meals, been absolutely faces, you see the faces, how it lights up with all the activities. We're going to be running the scheme again at Christmas, just before the Christmas break, and a massive extravaganza with bouncy castles. So a massive thank you for that, Margaret. I'll just say one more thing about Norman Hazel. Amazing guy. In his later days when I used to play cricket, and he used to umpire in them days. And a massive tribute to him, because I was on 48 and I just hit a 4 and a 6 and I got to 48 and he gave me out for LBW. And I said, how was that? Pulling it across. He said, I've got to give it as I see it, and that's Norman. He gave it as he saw it. An amazing guy, an amazing character. Will be missed by everybody.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Can we now move on to the next portfolio for communities, poverty and health? Councillor Cummins.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In moving the report, there are one or two things I would like to mention. And the first one is the warm spaces that the leader alluded to in her speech. We have now funded 26 warm spaces run by community groups across the district, with a further 7 libraries who are also running warm spaces. We are having, through the resident recovery group, a list of all those warm spaces and where they are and the times of opening, and that will be for members' information. We're hoping to get that out certainly over the next couple of days. The council are also running a winter wellbeing project, which is promoting that people have the COVID boosters, that people have the flu jabs, and one or two of us today have had a flu jab here in County Hall. So we are promoting the winter wellbeing. The resident recovery group have teamed up with the energy team to go into 5 markets across the district to actually be there to help people, to promote what's available through the energy team, to promote what's available through the Resident Recovery Board and CAB, so that I'll let people have those dates when it is that we've actually firmed them up, but they are during December. We're coming into the 16 days of action, which is raising awareness of domestic abuse, and we're kicking off on the 25th of this month with the Let's Kick Domestic Abuse into Touch, and that coincides with the football tournament. I think there's some sort of a football tournament happening. We've had the biggest event of the season, which is the Rugby League World Cup, but anyway, there's some sort of football tournament happening. And this is, we've done a soca video with our white ribbon champions, so I'd like to thank Richard and Glenn and Anthony Sandler for being part of that video, which will go out, which is they will not stand by and see the commitment or condoning or staying silent about domestic abuse against women. So that's a really big campaign that's coming out. The leader, or my ward colleague as she is now, which is what you said, he looked at to the £1.5 million that we've secured through the NHS to take actually into communities wellbeing coaches, and those wellbeing coaches will be people who are in our communities, people who have delivered through the pandemic, working with those people to actually deliver help and support to people who are on the edge of coming into the health system. So that's a really exciting fund. And finally, I'd like to pay my tribute as well to Norman Hazel. He was a lovely, lovely chap. And back in the heady days when we had more money than we have now, we did have twinning arrangements. And I went to Colin with Norman and in Poland, and it was a culture shock to both Norman and myself, because people walked around with guns, and Norman immediately stepped up to the plate as my bodyguard, and it was a lovely, lovely man. So I just want to associate my thoughts with his family. With that, I'll take any questions.
Councillor Haynes.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Cummins. Your report contains quite a little bit about smoking. Stopped all other than a railway of illegal smokes and vapes. I've worked with Yorkshire Smoke Free. The Yorkshire Smoke Free vapes, having not smoked before, has its own dangers. And in my area, we have issues where secondary school pupils are buying vapes and using them openly, sometimes with the parents' consent, as though they are harmless, and it's like a fashion accessory. And in some cases, children are reporting that they can't go to the toilet in peace because the people in the closet secretly vaping while they're still at school. So I'm wondering if there needs to be something taken up by, I don't know, people, young people, to sort of explain to young people the dangers of taking up vaping and not using it for the purpose that it was designed for.
I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. It's become a fashion accessory. I know in the schools in my area, they come out the school gate and it's the first thing that they do. They shouldn't be allowed to buy them. They aren't being used for what you suggest that they are being used for. We do have prevention through public health around smoking cessation, but maybe we should go out and about and I'll speak to my colleague Margaret here about how we can get those messages in. Families have, some responsibility to control what their children do as well. We can see it and we can try and do something about it, and we will. But I think families need to take responsibility as well. I totally agree with what you've said.
Councillor Harper.
Thank you, Maureen, for the work we have done. Just looking at the project of WF Connect, the cafe, there are 12 at the moment, but none of them actually located in the rural area. But given the vast area that rural ward covers and also the very poor bus service at the moment running, so I just wonder whether we would consider a couple of the cafes in our ward, if not even one, that would be useful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, shall we talk about that? We get together and talk about that, see what we can do.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions, comments? Okay. Right, moving on to portfolio holder for culture, leisure and sport, Councillor Gray.
Thanks. So this month's report is really focused on our leisure centres and the fantastic work that goes on there. One thing I just want to highlight from the report is that we are currently looking at concessions across our leisure centres, so making sure that in these really difficult times everyone has options and can afford to be able to use our leisure centres. And that's thanks to Councillor Farrar, who raised that as an issue, that policy is being looked at, and we will have some recommendations in April to pull through. I'd like to mention, in addition to the report, the leader mentioned earlier, we are bringing forward pitches. About 2 years ago, we agreed as a council a playing pitch strategy, and I was very honest with you back then that we could be doing more to invest in our facilities and to provide opportunities for everyone right across the district. We've seen 3G pitches delivered by ourselves and partners in Aspire, St Wilfrid's, Castleford Academy, Hemsworth, and of course in Frickley as well, which is just absolutely amazing. But we have got some coming forward in the west of the district, in Ossett, in Stanley, and also in the city as well. So really great news, and on top of that we are being able to refurbish the athletics track, which has come to the end of its life. Cabinet have approved funds that will see that transformed back into a world-class track with great surrounding facilities that can be used. Within the report I also thank staff, and I know I'm always thanking staff, but I want to give a special thank you to some staff in particular. Last Thursday at Sunlane Leisure Centre, a gentleman actually went into cardiac arrest, and I'm pretty sure he died. And 2 members of staff, Ash Sayer and Charlie Wood, managed to perform CPR and shock him out of it and bring him back. We then had Sylvia Babinska, Tracy Ward, Linda Orange, Lucy Fletcher, Lauren Hunter and Rachel Foreman, who stayed calm, were able to control the whole leisure centre and get the emergency services there. They saved that man's life and he's now in Leeds recovering. So can we just give those people a massive round of applause, please? have nominated these members of staff for a Mayor Says Thank You award, and we've also had senior managers go down there to thank them, as I have as well. So we just couldn't be more thankful for them, and the family have been in touch, and they're obviously so happy with what they've done. So with that, Mr. Mayor, that's really great news. I'll move my report and happy to take any questions.
Funny if I've just written that comment down about Mayor Says Thanks on my notes, so thank you. Any questions, comments? Councillor Gordon, sorry.
That's not me.
Right.
I think you've been confused before.
Is that your question, Councillor Farmer?
It was just a quick one. I don't think it was mentioned in the report, or at least I didn't see it. It's a talent festival, I just missed it. It was about the Light Festival that's happening. I think I've probably been somewhat fairly accused of a bit of a Philistine before about not liking arts and culture, and that's not usually the case. It's usually about the value for money. I think given the fact that we know that family finances are facing harder pressures than ever before, seeing 3 events that are put on across the district is obviously a nice way for people to get out of the house. And it was just to say that is really welcome that was coming to Nottingham. One of the things that has caused a bit of local friction, shall we say, is that the light up event, when it's in Nottingham, is on the same day as the Cambridge Community Centre light switch on, which is the event where they try to raise a lot of their funding to stay open. So I didn't know if it might be something that you could potentially promote in tandem. I mean, it is sort of similar vein, isn't it? They're turning the Christmas lights on as light up festival in Nottingham. So I didn't know if there was any way we could potentially look to tie that together and make it a bit more of a conducive event that everyone can benefit from and highlight both Nottingham and Cambridge.
Thanks for that, Tom. It's definitely something, you know by now, the council's got our experiencewakefield.co.uk website. The traffic through that is huge. We are promoting not just the events that we run, but events that community and groups run across the district, restaurants, hotels, anything we can put out there to promote this district and what we have to offer, we will do. So I will definitely look into that as soon as this meeting's over and get that work underway. Just on the whole Light Up Festival, I'm of the mind, as I know most councils in this room are, that now is the time more than ever that we need events, we need activities, we need people coming together as a community, and wherever possible they need to be free of charge, and that is what I can say about all of us. Yes, we have to, shave off and save money in any way we possibly can, and the Light Up Festival might not be as big as last year, we might not have as many events as we used to, but we must continue to run them, and we must keep that our festivals throughout the year intact to give people opportunities to enjoy themselves, because let's face it, times are absolutely depressing at the minute.
Thank you. Councillor Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not a question, it's a comment. Again, the Robert Burrows charity. I think that disease is absolutely horrendous. I mean, I'm pretty sure there'll be people in this area that suffer from that. So I'd like to thank to Kevin Sinfield for highlighting it and the work he's done and the amount of money he's raised to raise awareness to that horrendous disease. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor.
My comment is exactly the same as Councillor Farmer's. I mean, I was not wrong.
Thank you. Understood. Councillor Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just congratulate the team also on for gaining, I should say, keeping the national portfolio organisation status for museums and libraries, and given as you just described the really difficult times that we're having, that the money, the funding that comes with that is going to ensure that we can do so much culturally and educationally right for the communities right across our district. So it's brilliant news.
Thank you. Councillor Heptonstall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a comment to Mr. Thanmichael, Councillor Graham, providing double the amount of swimming instructors that we're going to have in the future. And that's a need for this district, because there are some schools in this district that have children going for swimming lessons, and only 3% of those children attain 25-metre certificates. When I asked head teachers about this problem, another problem arose. The amount of swimming these children, because the baths we provide as a council in this district are up to solid. So we're not getting all the children that we want up to the 25-metre level certificate, which is essential for any young child anywhere. I believe all children should be able to swim before leaving school. So thank you once again.
Thanks, Stuart. I think everyone's aware I've been really open and honest about the backlog from COVID, about summer lessons. It's a national problem. No matter how much pool space you've got across the district, there are backlogs, right? There's not a single council I know of that hasn't got a waiting list on the summer lessons. We did double the number of staff, and you know, it's not an issue of pool space. It's a very complex. I mean, I've sat down and had officers explaining to me, and I understand that it's all about moving up certain categories, and we've got lots of people in one category but we can't move the next. It's a complex situation, but staff are working tirelessly, and myself and Councillor Margaret Isherwood have been working with officers on plans in the future to look at, one, how we can tackle that, but also how we can promote really solidly water safety across the country. I don't want to be stood here next summer saying that some child or young person in our district has died once again. It feels like it happens every year. We need to push that message out really strongly. People in our district need to be learning how to swim. We've got ambitions to make sure 100% of every person leaving school knows how to swim before they do that. So we need to push on it. There will be a campaign coming out, and I'll share details with councillors very shortly about what that involves.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. This is just a comment, and I'm sure you're waiting for it. If we had a pool in Austin, you would leave it by a long way.
Thanks, Councillor Taylor. I'll repeat my previous quote. I would absolutely love to have a pool in every town in this district and provide swimming wherever. Obviously, in this day and age, especially with energy costs, they just cost an absolute fortune to run, and it's just not viable. We have to look at what we've got across the district. There's been proper, scientific reports released that show where the need is, and we've also got to work with other local authorities on our borders to make sure that we're all within, a reasonable distance. It's not ideal. I'd love one in Ossett, and I'd love one in other places as well, but at this moment in time, with the limited funding we're getting from government, it's just not yet possible, unfortunately.
Thank you. No further questions or comments? Thank you, Councillor Graham. Next report is Portfolio Holder for Regeneration, Economic Growth and Councillor White.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I also reiterate the comments that have been made about passing of Norman Hazel? Norman left this council many years before I even thought about joining it. But I did meet him on numerous occasions at functions across the country, across the district. And you're quite right in what you've said, that he was Mr. Wakefield. But I also remember the time when Norman and his brother Brian used to sit over there, and they were the only opposition. I think we got down to 2. I'm tempted to say those were the days. But before moving my report, I would just like to thank all of the council officers who go about their daily business supporting our residents, our businesses across the whole of this district. And we often forget that within this wide portfolio, we do support residents who need help, even more so in this government through the cost of living crisis. But we also support those looking for work and those who want to upskill and make a difference to their employment chances. But we also work and support businesses, small, medium and large. And working with our partners, we bring people to this district. So picking up on something that was mentioned by the West Yorkshire Mayor earlier and was raised by colleagues, earlier this week, I believe it was Monday, I'd love to say it was a glorious summer's day like we were having last week, but it wasn't, it was thick and fog. And we ended up with a team of colleagues from here and from West Yorkshire Combined Authority and with employees of Rolls-Royce SMR who were at Ferry Bridge. And we were looking at the opportunities that Ferry Bridge could deliver for this wonderful investment that's been promoted by the West Yorkshire Combined Authority and ourselves. If that comes about, we should know, certainly in the next 6 months or so, whether we've been successful, because we are one of the shortlisted sites. That will bring in £250 million plus of investment into our district and create over 200 jobs. But not just any jobs, these will be amazingly high-skilled jobs, and one assumes that that salary that goes with high-skilled jobs will come with them. So with that, I would like to ask our teams of staff and everybody else to continue to do what they do and to ensure that residents and businesses are always at the heart of this council, especially during these difficult times ahead. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'm on my report.
Right. Any questions or comments? Councillor Taylor.
Can I just ask, as Tracy said it wasn't in her reading, can I ask that any meetings or such like that happen about the proposed railway station in Ossett, can you make sure that everybody involved, Councillor Fisher, sadly has to go, he's done a massive amount of work on it, and he must be involved in it. He must be involved in all the meetings, but also the relevant councillors need to know what's going on as well, please.
Councillor Byford.
I agree with you 100%, and I went over and spoke to your leaders to say I'm more than happy to do that, but that's nothing to do with my report.
It's to do with you, though.
That's his main.
Hold on a second. Obviously, it is. I know what you're getting at, but obviously, Councillor Byford's right. It is his portfolio that's not been covered here. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You mentioned 250 million revenue into the district. That's not in this report, but will you give us some outline as to what that includes? Is that what you said? Sorry?
I said that Rolls-Royce SMR met with the council and officers from the West Yorkshire Combined Authority with a view to investing £250 million plus into a site at Wakefield by 2026, which will deliver 200 highly skilled jobs and the salaries that go with it. Thank you.
I'll take Councillor Dagger and I'll come back. Councillor Dagger.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a question for Councillor Byford. It's not on his report, it's on my portfolio, and it is on behalf of my constituents. My constituents are dismayed with the decision by Cabinet to acquire the former golf house on East Common, a building from local historical value. The council proposed to acquire this building for £1 million. This is 3.5 times the current market value of that particular property. And what do they want to do? They want to knock it down. So my constituents want to know why they were not consulted once the confidential report became public, and how the council can justify spending public money on such an acquisition when facing unprecedented budget challenges in this current financial climate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Byford.
Councillor Becker, thank you for that. The rationale for the expenditure was fully set out in the relevant cabinet reports, which were made public, and the expenditure is necessary to fulfil the statutory duties of this travelling community. Thank you.
Right, Councillor Sharp, do you want to come back?
Yeah, it just seems that this is the third report where the regeneration part has literally no effect on my report whatsoever. There's literally nothing that is bringing jobs to my ward, building the economy in my ward. The regeneration plan as a whole is just not good enough, and I would like to have a meeting as soon as possible so that we can work together to generate ideas together. Thank you.
Councillor Byford.
In my learned colleague's opinion.
Thank you. Councillor Isherwood.
Yeah, I'm pleased Council Byford stuff about this golf house and I think the key point is that we're legally bound to find somebody for the travelling community. It's no wish list, it's something that we've got to do. And I feel, well, you know my feelings are, which because the toilets get stolen up, the fence gets stolen, and the gates get stolen as well. So I think it may be a possible idea if we are going on a transit site until we get a fully establishment, of course, is that we have a look around the various wards and to see if there's a possibility that on the transit side we move maybe every 12 months or something like that. Because I don't think it's fair that we volunteered for it, but now we appear to be getting a number with it because there's no action on the other transit side, the transit side. So I would say it's not a wish list, it's something we've got to do. It's something that we've got to get sorted out sooner rather than later. Otherwise, we're going to get travellers all over the district again, as we have them got past umpteen years anyway. So it's just maybe a little thought we'll give to it, Darren.
Thank you, Mike. I think that's a valid point, well made. I think the logistics of that may stop us from doing it, but we'll certainly take into consideration.
That's it, what I think.
Thank you. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I refer down to the private rented sector paragraph that you have in the report? First of all, to say how welcome this project is, and do we have an end date for when the project is going to conclude, or is it going to be ongoing for a further period of time? It's most welcome to see the action and support through the various agencies and the outcome of the press. I think maybe it might need further work doing and connections with the housing needs service, and possibly, if at all possible, some connection as well with the houses of multiple occupation that are going across our ward in Wakefield, and I do know across the district, in certain parts of the district. My ward colleagues, Margaret and I, have great concerns about the amount of HMOs that are coming through within Wakefield as a whole, including West Ward and East Ward. And we do know there's a need for them. But my concern is, and part of the health agenda of my scrutiny committee, I like to say, in terms of the mental health and the physical health need of some of the occupants that have been placed in these houses of multiple occupation. Originally, a HMO was for 4, and the government, in its wisdom, some years ago, increased that to 6. Some of these houses are just ordinary 3-bedroom properties, and in 3-bedroom properties you have 6 with 1 maybe bathroom, maybe 1 lounge. And the owners of the properties obviously should have responsibility in terms of the accommodation and the standards of accommodation. But I think there's some joint working that needs to be done between ourselves and your good self, Darren and the team, in terms of some of the most vulnerable who are suggested in your paragraph here could possibly be at risk of homelessness, that maybe are the subject of some of these HMOs, which I think indeed need more regulation to make sure that the individuals in these properties have the proper care and attention that they need, and indeed are not subject to living in substandard accommodation, which may be the case, but not in all. So if possible, Darren, is there something that could be connected together to see what we can do to work together with this issue?
Thank you for raising that. I think that's a very valid point that you raised there. What we'll do, because that jumps across several portfolios, I'll talk to colleagues, and I think we may try and put a lot of members training event to explain exactly what we are doing in relation to the issues that you raised.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon.
I just wanted to query, you mentioned a meeting between the council and Rolls-Royce v SMR about the site in Ferry Bridge. Is that a new meeting since the original one, or was that a reference to the original meeting at the start of that process? The reason I ask is I'm just wondering in terms of keeping ward members informed on that. I know I've had conversations with yourself and council officers about that and how to take that forward. There was also a community event that the Mountain Park developers of that site where Rolls-Royce has been potentially considered. They did a community event in Ferrybridge at the community centre to talk about the options. One of the other things is just actually making sure that we're all sort of talking and singing from the same hymn sheet in terms of what the council can do. I know one of the great frustrations about the redevelopment of that site is the potential for it to end up, rather than having skilled employment and jobs at Rolls-Royce, is that it could end up being more distribution warehousing. The issue with that is probably much more in Councillor Morley's portfolio than your own, about issues of transport and logistics. But one of the points is, like, it's relevant to this development, is that ourselves as ward councillors have written to, I forget whether it's National Highways or Highways England now, it's undergone a rebrand not long since, about the fact that the slip we're looking, and one of the things residents have talked a lot about is wanting some sort of junction off the A1M and traffic to go direct to that site as opposed to having to cut the town, the village, Ferrybridge in half. So if there are further meetings with the partners and the developers of that site, Mount Park and Rolls-Royce, if we could be looped in, that would be much appreciated.
In answer to the first part of the question, these will come from me. So the second is amazing. And the answer to the rest of it.
Thank you. Councillor Swift.
Back to HMOs, in the interest of time, just expressing very full support for both Councillor Rhodes and what Councillor Byford has said. Most important issue. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hay.
Yeah, just a good news story about Big Boiler Scheme. About 3 weeks ago, I had a parent dropping off children for the youth club session. He was really worried and concerned about the boiler being broken at the moment, having the money to be able to replace it. And if I had gone on to one of the workshops that Maureen has organised, I want to know about the boiler scheme. I met the referral, and only this week she's actually had the boiler fitted. So it's actually, I managed to turn it around in about 3 weeks. I think that's amazing. If she sees stuff, sometimes people apply for it and it never comes off. And it feels like she's rang me to thank us to say how grateful she was for it. So just keep that.
Thank you. Councillor Farmers.
Thank you. Just for clarification point, we're not allowed to ask questions just on the portfolio.
It's on the portfolio or on the report.
Right. Thank you.
Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Byford mentions the travelling community like it's some homogenous kind of thing, and it really isn't. And a lot of my colleagues have been down there, and we've spoken to a lot of the travelling community, and they don't want this transit site either. And they don't want it because it brings trouble. Let's be brutally honest about this. And they get a share of the trouble that they didn't cause any of. So they don't want it either. And this is something I appreciate your problems with the legal obligations here, there, and everywhere. But you know that's the simple fact of the matter. The travelling, you know, you can't cite them as though they are a homogenous group because they're not. And a lot of those people don't want it because of the problems it's going to bring.
Okay, comment. Right. No further questions, comments. Okay, so thank you very much, Councillor Byford. It's going down for a record. Right, next portfolio holder is for planning and highways, Councillor Morley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, we are in that time of year again. We are in our goods maintenance. It's gritting season. We'll be doing a member drop-in meeting, what you want to call it, next couple of weeks to update where we are with what we're going to be doing, the columns around it. It's the touch wood. I'm saying also we have a very, very mild winter. Like last winter, but we know when the storm does it. It's the first thing on everybody's mind. Everybody wants a brick box. Everybody wants every road gritting, and obviously don't have the capacity to how we manage that process and manage what we can and cannot do. So we'll have a drop-in session for where we are with that. And, you know, as on my feet, it makes a huge, massive thank you to our army of snow wardens that go out there when we do have that snowfall, and the council out there, they're all superstars. When it comes down to household occupation, yes, it's not very straightforward. Government legislation is that you do have these houses. Anything below a number of 6 living in these properties don't have to be registered, so it is a very complicated, it's not a very straightforward process, but I think myself, Darren, Maureen, will have these joint set-up meetings to brief people as to where we are with them. When it comes down to Ossett train station, I've been raising this now for a number of years with Combined Authority to work with a business case of getting it. It's the largest town, I think, in the country that doesn't have a train station. I've said this time and time again. The Combined Authority is doing wonders. They are supporting other parts of our district, putting a new platform in Castleford, improving Pontefract stations, looking to improve Nottingham station and elsewhere. We need to keep fighting and working with them to get this funding in place, to get the station it's desperately needed. In Ossett and Aubrey, I know that, you know that, and it is cross-party to work together to get that on. So I can give you assurances that yes, any meetings. I think we have met before with local members from both sides. With a meeting to move forward. I seem to also like my memory about that. So with that, Mr. Mayor, yes, I'll finish my report and take any questions.
Any questions? Councillor Keith.
Thank you, Chair. 2 things. One, next Steve's surgery now one is going to be on road safety, so we'll be looking into tapping into this sort of information that you give us on education in road safety. The thing that I wanted to raise, though, was about the Newton Bar Junction. I've got, it's on, as you know, on the corner of Pontar Road. I expressed on my last conversation with the Highway Department that we appreciate they've got to have a time scale and it did start a little bit late. Did they have to start in all 4 corners at once? Because that's what it seems like they're doing. And to be perfectly honest, the junction onto the A61 is dangerous. The traffic coming around the corner because of the road furniture that's been used to start the project months ago and has not been finished, has not been moved. And last night, a bus comes around the corner and it goes onto the other side of the road, facing the oncoming traffic coming down. Then you go onto the opposite corner where they've started levelling up and they've put a grate that sticks up at least a foot. Somebody lost the back tyres out of it over there. Point being is, we expect a little bit there. So I'll be able to have a side visit with it because it's poor.
Yeah, I'm disappointed, Councillor Keith, you've taken a council meeting to raise. You don't have to wait for a council meeting. You can talk to me any time, any day of the week. So this has been raised last week, looking forward, it was fetched to you. It was also raised with myself, so it has been inspected, and the concerns have been right, especially with the tyre situation. We are constantly monitoring it. We're trying to get the work done as quickly as possible. As you do know, roadworks are a necessary evil. We're trying to improve the junction, and we just going on and on and on and on, trying to get it done as quickly as possible, which is being done. That's why we're not taking the traffic lights off all the time. We're leaving them on, so we get the work done as quick as possible. Quite much go down there on site visit. I do know local residents have been patient with us. We need to get the work done as quick as possible.
Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Morley once described me as the gift that keeps on giving. I wasn't not even remotely worried about that. But I can only say that you're the gift that keeps on giving, because Station Road, you surfaced it, fabulous, it long needed it, and it only gets dug up by some company about a week later. But the same thing's happening now on Dale Street, Headlands Road, same thing. They were resurfaced not very long ago, and now we've got roadworks down them with trenches being dug down the road. You know, why does this happen? You must have known that that project was going to go ahead.
Actually, no, we don't. Also, utility companies come in very, very short notice at times, and we have no statutory right to always say no to it. So no, we don't know years, months in advance about Tony Oldwood. And I'd like to know when the roads were resurfaced. Maybe better we get the conversation outside, because it won't bore everybody with your streams, but it's quite nice to have that conversation. There's a lot of it.
Councillor Palmer.
Just a quick comment. I'm a snow warden, Matthew, and I'd like to thank you for
omitted that comment. Okay, fine. Right, thank you. Right, thank you for that. Councillor Molly. Oh, sorry.
On several occasions today, I've been listening to people about railway stations. Why? It's been mentioned again recently. Was a forward-thinking place like Featherstone is in our ward. We have two railway stations in our ward. The only problem is we've got no trains. So you can build as many railway stations as you want, but you've got no train stop. And they just become just a nice thing to look at. No trains, you can't go on it, but no nice trains.
Before we finish this one, Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lastly, just very quickly bring this case to your personal attention about Woolly Range. The estate has been developed for more than a decade, but the road has still not been adopted by the council. So the winter's coming, the great but will not go in. So the residents really are thinking they've been short-changed. They're paying Wakefield council taxes, but they don't get anything. So I know it's quite complicated to do with Yorkshire Water or other stakeholders, but would you please take some personal attention to help us to resolve the matter? Thank you.
Councillor Gordon, all right, it's not really close to that. Yeah, it's not straightforward. Sometimes talking about power adoption of roads and water, if something hasn't been fetched up to the right standard, it can't be adopted until it has been fetched up. So I will look into that and I will get back to you on that as well.
Right, okay. Is everybody sitting on their hands now? We move on to the last. Thank you. Right, final cabinet report. For member, for portfolio for resources. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In moving my report, I'll just basically pick up the point that we raised earlier in terms of costs around avian flu. Signs are going to be up at parks and country parks within the next week, and we have set the social media for several weeks, but we've had a couple of posts over the last few days as well, so they will be continuing and signs will be up soon. I would like to echo your comments, Mr. Mayor, on welcoming our trainees from the National Graduate Development Programme. I was lucky enough to meet with Astrid, Kitty, Libby, Momo, Naomi, Pip and Scarlett last week, and I do look forward to catching up with them periodically over the 2 years here just to see how they find working in different departments of the council. And finally, in moving my report, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to highlight what's not in the report actually, just to mention that at the recent nationwide impact awards that we've gained first place in the public sector category for promoting wellbeing in the workplace. Work that's contributed toward this has included the health events that we've held across the council and included blood pressure checks, weight management, things like that, and the work that we've done around menopause and wellbeing coaching. There are many more initiatives that we have done, so they're just naming a few, and it's been a fantastic cross-council effort. I'd just like to place on record our thanks and congratulations to all of them involved in getting that award.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. Any comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much. Right, agenda item number 7 is to consider the approval of the salary package for the Corporate Director, Children and Young People. Is the report moved?
Move the report, Mr. Mayor.
Is the report seconded?
Second the report, Mr. Mayor.
Are there any questions in relation to the report? No. All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That is carried. Agenda item 8 is to consider a report detailing proposed changes to the Council's constitution. Is the report moved?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I will move the report and just say that it brings forward a number of proposed changes to the Constitution for approval by Council. The overall changes are summarised in Appendix A, agenda page 79. One of the changes is to update the member officer protocol, and this is highlighting the updates that we made at the AGM, and the detail is set out in paragraph 3 of agenda page 74 and Appendix H. The report also references further technical changes required under the Health and Care Act 2022 to deliver more integrated care services for residents, and these are included in Appendices E and F. The other proposals are part of an ongoing review of the Constitution to support improvement activity across the Council and make best use of scarce resource. They seek to streamline the processes whilst retaining transparency and accountability, and in particular, There are changes to contract procedure rules and the council standard terms and conditions of contract. I move the recommendations for the reasons that are set out in the report.
Is the report seconded? Thank you. Are there any questions in relation to the report? Councillor Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in relation to the moving of the threshold to 25,000 to 100,000, I have a question over this. Probably councillors have known that recently that Birmingham Council has reported a £1.6 million breach of contract. And I understand that the government actually also will be starting the review next year. And for what reason, what is the rationale behind it to change the threshold from 25,000 to 100,000 pounds? It's a big jump. So why the margin so high? Some of the core cities, through the local authority, only have £50,000 as a contract threshold required for legal assistance and legal advice. So I just wonder why at this moment in time, do we have any overview or any scrutiny meeting in terms of this change and what is the reason behind it that this part of the council need to know about it? Because we need to make sure transparency, accountability is there and we cannot waste taxpayers' money at this time of year. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and one of the reasons that we are doing this is to improve the activity of the council so that we can make the best of that resource. So now we put additional resources. Similarly, with things costing more money now, it seems silly to have not raised that in line with everything else. There will be massive transparency, as you said in the report, and it's just to streamline that process to actually make sure where we can make these decisions, we are doing rather than holding things up.
Councillor Hilton?
Yeah, I'd like to back what Councillor Harvey says. £100,000, not happy about it, and that's why I won't be voting for it.
Okay. Right, so, all in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? No, this is carried. The final report for consideration is agenda item 9, which is regarding the community governance review. Is the report moved?
This report brings forward approval by full council. The final recommendation from the community governance review as set out in Appendix 1, and it seeks to authorise the Chief Legal Officer to give effect to recommendations by sealing the community governance order and undertaking the consequential steps to notify on and publicise the changes as required by the 2007 Act. In accordance with Local Government Public Involvement and Health Act 2007, Wakefield Council has conducted a community review. The review has taken into account representations and submissions of all interested parties and is considered to include the best possible outcome of human parish arrangements in the district, having regard to the legislation and guidance on conducting such reviews. The report sets out the final recommendations for changes to the parishes in the Wakefield district, which, if approved, will be implemented in the precepts set by each parish for the financial year 23-24, and the election is scheduled to take place to every part of town and parish council in May of next year. All submissions that are made during the period of consultation have been considered in detail. A short summary of the recommended changes listed alphabetically by parish is provided at pages 156 and 157. The steps required to give effect to the final recommendation are provided at pages 170 to 175 of the report. And these recommendations reflect the submissions received to the review and the actions required to make the changes. These changes are viewed as necessary by the Electoral Registration Officer and Returning Officer and the officer responsible for the maintenance of the Register of Electors and the administration of elections in the Wakefield district. The final decision is to give effect to the recommendations and is reserved to full council. So that I move the recommendations for the reasons I'm presenting not now set out in the report.
Are there any questions in relation to the report? Yes?
I'd like to ask what the criteria is for merging two parish councils. Why it seems to be so hard. Basically, what we get, not recommending the parishes have their own identity. I live in a parish with two villages together. We couldn't be any closer or like that. In fact, some people that live in the island have got addresses, postal addresses in our The people want these two countries to get together in one parish council. How do we get it done?
I would suggest that putting that in as a response to the consultation would have been a means in which to address that. All parish councils were written out to ask for their views and also the views on the current proposals and the second round of proposals that we came up with. So at that point, to ask for that would have been done. In terms of how the decisions are made, it's about electoral balance and electoral fairness. It's also about a sense of belonging, so where people think they belong, and the representation that we have from the community are very much shaped that, and also from parish and town councils.
Yeah, can I just add, I've made a procedural error because I'm waiting for new glasses and I missed out a lie. Sorry, but obviously Fran's correcting me. There's a report seconded. Right, any more questions or comments? Okay, all in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Right, that's carried. And that, colleagues, is the last item on the agenda. So, thank you all for your attendance and your forbearance. 3 hours and 5 minutes. I'll now declare the meeting closed.
Ladies and gentlemen, council members, please be upstanding whilst the mayoral party leave the council chamber.